And I'm hopeful that we can get to those in a way that we can share ideas and think through how we can all work together in the future, because that truly is continue to work together in the future, because that truly is my hope and motivation tonight, is to continue to build on the goodwill and the amazing things that are going on out in the community, and how the city can continue to play a role in that. I am the assistant city manager, and my responsibilities are really kind of focused on outward facing city programs. I manage the city's civic engagement, our communications program, our economic development program, those things that essentially kind of interact with the community. I think of myself as kind of a steward of the community relationship with the city, to make sure that there's give and take, participation, we're listening, and we're communicating. And also a big part of my job is really to do what Kurt Triplett needs. I serve kind of as his chief of staff, so if there's a priority item or something that Kurt needs, either inside or outside the government, I've played that role for Kurt for many, many years, even before the city of Kirkland. And that's something you can always call me, or if you need to communicate with Kurt, I can always be a conduit for you to do that. I'd like to start briefly, and I am watching the clock, Jawad, just to start with this idea and feeling of gratitude. Gratitude truly is a blessing. And I can tell you, I know, I speak for everybody at the city when I say how grateful we are to have such a thoughtful, caring, and empathetic community. And those values are, never more present than now. Values truly do come out in when you are in conflict. And it really is a privilege to serve you all. I say that from my heart. I come to work every day and I see blue ribbons circling the city of Kirkland. Those blue ribbons of hope. And it really is inspiring to me to see. It's almost like a protective force out there from our community, giving us goodwill to come to work and do the work that needs to get done. There are not many of us here in the city of Kirkland. Most of the city employees are working from home. I've got the privilege of working with the Kirkland Parks and Community Foundation. We have somebody from the Nourishing network on our panel, and they're just amazing, and they're raising thousands of dollars and doing just truly amazing work. It's an inspiration. You are an inspiration. And even the Kirkland Delivers program, where the foundation came together to try to connect charitable donations with restaurants so that you could get food to people in need at the same time that you're promoting local businesses and doing what we critically need from local businesses is to patronize their stores. I think in these moments where we are compelled to be physically apart, the healing and restorative power of our human connections have never been so apparent, even if just by phone, email, or Zoom. And we feel that at the city, and so thank you. What I'd like to do in my few minutes is just let you know about some of the critical things that are going on, some of the foundational things that we're focusing on in the city. And then I have a very specific ask of all of you as we move forward. Our efforts almost immediately, in addition to the Emergency Operations Center that came online late February, and the incredible work of our fire and health care workers and our fire department that was on the first line, the front line, and the police officers, our public safety professionals. And I got the privilege of seeing them work every single day. There are a couple of very critical things, key things that the city has done that I want to make sure that you're aware of. And the first is the leadership of our city council. I see Councilmember Nixon in attendance. They did something that really has proven to be a foundational strategy for our work, which is something called the Human Services Stabilization Initiative. We have this thought in the city about not creating new pipes. Put funds and resources to people that are doing the work already, because it's time and effort if you have to create a new program. And what the council did was they took those human services providers and they pushed out $265,000 to them. What they really needed was resources. And those resources were delivered at a critical time. And not only did we send out that money, but we also accelerated all of the human services groups that we had. We gave them their year in advance. not worrying about the strict performance goals associated with them because we were in an emergency. That work actually, that decision by the council shapes everything we do because it's building off the existing pipes, the existing systems that are out there in the community. And so what we did was we looked at that universe, of that funded universe, and we said, what needs to be done? What pipes don't exist to get critical care to folks? And we centered on several things, which I'll run through quickly. And then my ask is to how we can engage more to work on these. And the first is, well, in addition to that, the council also created a proclamation deferring tax payments and utility payments. And they created an important proclamation for our small businesses so they can't be evicted. So the city stepped up to do some very specific strategic things, including funds and legislation that protected those folks most in need. So when we did that assessment, we said, what's left? What's left in terms of need in the community? And it focused mostly on food, providing critical information for people that might not otherwise be out, homebound people, and then our small businesses. And for those folks that might be homebound and not get information, we sent out 39,000 postcards translated in multiple languages, giving them a number to call if they were in physical, emotional, or mental distress, a number to call if they were sick or they felt they were infected by the COVID-19. And then a number to call if they needed food. And when we did it, we actually didn't have a food distribution system set up. We did it as a leap of faith. And folks came together, we restructured a contract, and now we have a number, we call it the food hotline, where we are capable now of delivering food to people who need it. And I'm gonna put a footnote on that because that's one of my principal asks of this group, is to help make sure everybody that needs to know about that number has that number. The other thing we've been doing on the business side is we created this business response team because there's a lot of businesses, small businesses, immigrants, other folks, businesses that aren't in touch with accountants or bankers or financial planners that were kind of left out of that first major round of funding from the federal government. So we've made it free for people to call a business response team to get critical resources, information necessary to fill out these grants. And by the way, that money could be gone as early as Wednesday or Friday this week, this new federal money. So we're pushing that out, and that's one of my asks for you tonight, is to help businesses who desperately need information to come to our website, fill in the contact form so we can get them one-on-one technical assistance. So in the end, my ask is that as we stand up the programs that aren't fully covered by the amazing money, the processes and the monies that were flowing to our human services providers, those needs around food and those needs around information to get funds for our businesses, how can we partner together to make sure that the right people are getting the right information at the right time so that the city can be fully responsive to our community? And I'll leave it at that. Maybe I've gone over a little bit, but more to follow.
Thank you very much. Let me see if I'm unmuted here. Yeah, thank you, Jim, for your presentation here. Now I'm going to request Reverend Michael Anderson from Holy Spirit Lutheran Church in Kirkland to tell us. And in fact, one of the things we may not realize that Pastor Michael was providing services to many of the folks who were at the Life Care Center, and it must have been a very difficult time for them because literally I think it's probably a few hundred yards away from the church. So our condolences to you, Pastor Michael, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Hello, everyone. Again, Mike Anderson, Holy Spirit Lutheran Church. Indeed, we're just a few blocks, 2 blocks from Life Care Center. We are right at the center of all this at the beginning. So I would like to share a little bit about that experience. But before I do that, I'd like to say thank you to Jawad and blessed Ramadan to you and your congregation, and to Jim. A practical issue that you mentioned right at the end, how to use and find connections in the community. Every church has its own newsletter. If you would give some information about these hotlines, the business hotline and the food hotline, just send a little email to the church office and they can embed those in their newsletters. Some of our e-news, some are snail mail news, but you would hit thousands of people through church newsletters and congregation newsletters.
Fabulous.
So that said, I will continue with my presentation, which will include three things. One is practical, which Jim talked about, a lot of practical things we're doing in response to COVID, but also spiritual, psychological. I'd like to talk about that. And finally, about the future, about what this means for our future. So briefly on practical. As a church, we are dealing with similar issues to everyone, is how to operate in being separate. We have tried to reach out to people through online ministries, through telephone ministries. We've had to deal with budget issues. We are applying for PPP. We've also established a new caring fund in our church and invited people to make contributions to that caring fund, where we will be giving out gift cards to people to provide food and other essential needs that they might have. And that has been overwhelmingly supported. Thousands of dollars have come in already for that. So that's just the first one. I'm not going to spend really much time on the practical. That is happening. So what I can offer to this group more, I think, is the psychological, spiritual issues that we see going on within our community. And one of the things that fascinated me when this started to unfold is that it appeared to me that there is a collective anxiety going on. Typically, we deal with individual anxiety, grief, and pain, but we are going through this as a group. And I was able to observe, and I'm sure you are too as you reflect back on this, our community going through the stages of grief, which begin with, as you know, a denial. There was a denial period. This can't be that serious. It can't be that much. And then it moves into anger. And then it moves into a bargaining kind of mode. And then finally a kind of acceptance. And then after that comes an engagement for the future, a kind of, we can do this. I mean, that's the blue ribbons all around the town of Kirkland. We can do this, and we're going to take this as a challenge. But we should remember that we went through all these stages together as a group versus individually going through a loss. So leadership in the midst of that is very important, because leadership to the collective community is vital to hope and to the future. And so a leader needs to be aware of these stages of grief that people are going through and be able to provide a sense of confidence and hope, while also being very realistic about the pain and anxiety and the loneliness and the different stages that people might be in their stages of grief. So what we can offer spiritually is a recognition of us going through that. And also to provide some leadership and to encourage other leaders to do the same, to be aware of these stages of grief, to be respectful of those stages, but also provide a sense of hope in the future. So the third thing I wanted to say to you, the first one was practical. We're dealing with practical issues, spiritual, psychological issues. And the third one is more missional or purpose oriented. How is this going to change us as a church, as a community, as government? I have three things that I want to share with you. First of all, what we're learning from this crisis is that people care about each other. People need each other. People like to be together with other people. How many of you have seen people in their driveways having a little happy hour or having a conversation 6 feet apart? They just want to be together. How can we leverage that deep desire to be in community into the future? How can we create programs? How can we create opportunities, not just to do things together, but to be together, which is different. You get the catalog from Kirkland and we do things together. How can we create ways to be together, from supper clubs to connecting between groups. I don't know what that's going to take, but that is going to be part of our missional future. A second important part of our missional future, as we observe what's going on in our world today, is the fact that we are seeing problems accentuated. One of those is inequality in our society. We have 26 million people unemployed. A majority of them are service workers, and we're watching the stock market go up and up and up every day. People with wealth getting wealthier, people without getting less. We also see racial injustice and prejudice rampant. How can we in the future address these issues that are becoming accentuated by this crisis? So that will be an important part of our missional future and possibly yours as well. And of course, the third one is how do we leverage online ministry, online meetings, online connections, online work with a positive future. So those are some of the things that we're thinking about. I'm sure you are too. It's been quite a ride, and we're not done yet, but we want to take the opportunity in a crisis to do new and good things for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor Mike. I really appreciated your perspective there. It's always fun listening to you. You mesmerize me every time I listen to you. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm going to turn now to Kendra. Kendra, I'm very impressed with the work you guys are doing. Toby told me amazing work you do. I know many children are away from school, and that is actually placing extra burden on families, especially the families who are less fortunate, because children get food at school and they were now finding themselves with challenges. So, I'd like to actually welcome you here, and if you can share us your perspectives, give us an update, and we look forward to hear from you. Let me see. You are unmuted now, okay?
Okay. Thank you. As you said, I'm Kendra Petkau, and I'm here representing the Kirkland Nourishing Network. Before I touch on what we've been doing as an organization, I want to go back to what Jim was saying, the food.
Kendra, we're having a hard time hearing.
Line. My suggestion on a way to get the word out about that would be to reach out to school counselors.
Oh, that's
they
great.
Have, is that better?
A little bit better, but still,
Is better?
I don't know about others, but I'm having a hard time hearing you. I mean, I can hear you.
Is my voice clear now?
It's clear, yeah, go ahead. Kendra, go ahead, please, proceed. We can't hear you.
Okay, you know what? Can everybody else hear me? If not, I can call in. Okay, so my feedback would be to reach out to school counselors.
That's great. Thank you.
So Kirkland Nourishing Network started about 7 years ago. We provide food boxes before long school breaks. Families who are food insecure, and then just before the school closure back in March, we realized that the food boxes weren't going to be a viable option this time around. So we shifted to to doing for guitars and dead. Oh,
I think we'll have to. I think we lost her just now. Why don't we actually come back to her? And Deborah, if I can ask you, we'll pick up with Kendra afterwards. Deborah, if I can ask you to get us going, hopefully we won't have any problems with you. I'm going to unmute you here. Let's go. You're on live, Deborah.
Great, thank you. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I have some slots, but I think what I'm going to do is just.
Oh, excuse me, Deborah. By way of introduction, Deborah is a wonderful person from King County Health. King County has been at the forefront. You know, I mean, I should have said a few things. I mean, you know, kudos to you. You guys are so busy and you're still making time for us, you know, and I really think you're a model health department in the world. I really appreciate it for what you guys are doing, okay?
Thank you. We appreciate that. We really, really do. So I'm working on the novel coronavirus in King County. I am part of what's called the coronavirus mitigation branch for public health. I was invited into public health. That's not my day job. My day job is work in human resources, or my regular job is that I work in human resources, and I'm an organizational development practitioner. I'm also an ordained minister.
Wow.
So this group is really close to my heart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through a couple of things, and then I'm going to show you a website. I'm going to share my screen and show you a website. And I think that's probably going to be a great approach for today. So again, what we really want you to know is that everything we know about the coronavirus happened between December through now. So this is really still fairly new to us, but we're learning a lot about it as we go. With that, we want to remind our communities that viruses don't discriminate. They really, really don't. And if you or someone that you know is experiencing discrimination or harassment as a result of this, we have some information. You can contact the Washington State Human Rights Commission or the King County Office of Civil Rights, and those phone numbers will be there in the PowerPoint presentation. At this point, we are still in a place where we are to stay home so that we can stay healthy. And what I'm starting to see is a trend of people going out more, because I think folks are sensing that perhaps our governor and his staff are trying to see when and where they can relax some of the guidance, and we've already seen it with construction workers. What we are asking is that please, please, please remain home until we hear back from the governor. The essential activities permitted under this proclamation would include going out for medical appointments. You're absolutely, we want you to go get your medication, go out for food, groceries, pet supplies, home cleaning supplies, home maintenance supplies. If you're an essential worker, yes, please. And by the way, thank you for your work. Childcare, if you're in childcare or you're a medical employee, all of our essential folks, yes, 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 please. We also want you to know, please, where you can get some exercise, and going for walks is not a bad idea. When my mom and I go out for walks in the community, because I live in a multi-generational home, we have multi-generations in our family, in our home. My mom and I go out, and what we will do is cross the street if we see neighbors walking on the same sidewalk, and we make sure to say hello and wave, but we all want to keep each other safe. The other thing that we want to stress is please wear face masks. And initially, early on, we were saying, well, face masks are okay, you know, do it if you want to, don't if you don't. Now we're saying, please wear face masks. What we do know is that if someone is COVID positive, that knows about it or even doesn't know about it, it really does reduce the spread of the virus. Again, the virus travels within 6 feet, you know that. And so that's why we're saying, please maintain 6 feet of distance. And now I'm going to share my screen with you because what we are hearing is that there are a lot of myths and misinformation out there. And what I want you to see,
Would you like me to do that, Deborah, or you want to do it? I can do it easily.
let me share the link in the chat, and if you'll share it, that'd be great. Hold on.
Okay, your screen is up. First slide is up.
Okay, here it's coming. Oops. There it goes. So actually, if you want, you can click on that for yourself, just as individuals. And it's the CDC Advice for Public Mythbusters. Please look through that. It's full of great information, such as exposing yourself to the sun or to higher temperatures does not prevent or stop the coronavirus. There's other myths around, drinking alcohol does not protect you against coronaviruses. The virus can be transmitted in areas with hot and cold climates. Taking hot baths does not prevent the disease. This is also an interesting one. Are hand dryers effective in killing the coronavirus? No. And there's one about garlic in here that I thought was interesting if you scroll down quite a bit. It talks about garlic is a healthy food and has some antimicrobial properties. However, there's no evidence from the current outbreak that eating garlic alone is going to protect people from the virus. So we want to just, make sure to point those things out to the community because information is myths and information are just spreading like wildfire. And what we would encourage you to do is click that link, take a look at the information on the CDC website. Also, Public Health has a website as well. And I did cut and paste it, but you guys may need to cut and paste it in your browser. You can also check the King County Public Health website, and I will put that link in the browser as well. And again, it's in the PowerPoint presentation that I afforded to Jawad. The other thing I want to point out very quickly is if you're having symptoms like fever, cough, or difficulty breathing, and a fever, the CDC recommends a fever of 100.4. If you're having a temperature of 100.4, they want you to call. Don't go into the emergency room. I went this afternoon to a procedure with my husband, and they wouldn't even let me in. He had to go in, but they wouldn't even let me in. So I'm pleased to see that they're just trying to keep us from contracting corona or spreading it. But call. I've had an occasion to call my doctor. They called me right back, got to me. But if you are having trouble getting a hold of your doctor, if you don't feel like you're being heard, if you're asking for tests and they're not it's not available to you, we want you to call the King County Call Center. That telephone number is 206-477-3977. 206-477-3977. We are hearing that some in the community are having trouble getting tested, or they're saying, hey, I'm sick, I really need to get in, and they don't feel like their provider is listening. You may call that center. We also have language lines. So please call. Don't suffer in silence. We really want you to call. If community members are letting you know they're trying to call and not getting through, please have them call. And we do want folks, if you feel like you're in a medical crisis, please call 911. Okay. Trying to think, is there anything else? And then again, until we hear further guidance from the governor, we are on the stay home, stay healthy order at least until May 4th. We're looking to him to let us know when he is going to release us and open up more businesses and release us back to work. We also have some other resources, a great resource brochure, and there's all kinds of, now if you go on the King County Public Health website, we have a lot of information in different languages. We are really super happy about that, and I will make sure that Jawad and this community gets the links to those. If you want other presentations by public health for other communities, in addition to this, please don't hesitate to contact me. You may contact me directly. That's my role. I head up the Speakers Bureau, and we do presentations to make sure that community gets this information. So that's my contact information, and it doesn't matter how large or how small, we will provide information to your community. And we have a number of task forces, and I work with those task forces to make sure we have information specific to your audience. So if it's youth, if it's domestic violence worker, if it's the business community. In fact, Shannon is on this call from the business task force, and I invited her in because I thought that information would be good for this community. So please don't hesitate to call. Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for this invitation. We are thankful and grateful for you.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for making this at a very short notice. I'm going to now request your colleague Shannon to come on board, and then we're going to go back to Kendra. Hopefully she is there. So here we go. Shannon, you're on. And let me see, are you unmuted or not? Let me unmute you here. Looks like you need to unmute yourself. Okay, there you go.
Okay, I am unmuted now.
Okay.
Thank you, and thanks for having us. I had prepared a few slides, but essentially the information that I wanted to share is the information that we are putting out to businesses, primarily about the unemployment benefits and the SBA loans. King County doesn't have a role in administering either of those programs, but we do want to make sure that individuals and business owners have information and know what to expect as they try to access those programs. So first, as I'm sure many of you have heard, the unemployment site has been updated now. So I think people had heard about some of the expanded provisions and eligibility for unemployment once the CARES Act passed, but that expanded eligibility didn't get updated into the unemployment system until April 18th. So people had been applying for the benefits believing that they were eligible, which they were, but the system wasn't able to process their application. So now the system has been updated. It's still a little clunky is my understanding, and it's also quite overloaded. This week they're expecting to have 1 million claims filed for unemployment insurance. So that may not be new applications. Those are people who are already in the system who are now filing a weekly claim. With the Federal CARES Act, it did expand unemployment eligibility to those who previously had not been eligible. So that includes people who are independent contractors, who are self-employed workers, and those who have fewer than 680 hours of work. For those who are self-employed, we've gotten a number of questions, and if people have not filed their 2019 taxes, then you can still file, and you will want to have as much documentation as possible about any money that was earned in 2019 to substantiate your claim for unemployment. So you would use documents that are similar to what you would use for filing your taxes in that process. So just want to encourage people who are self-employed, whose income has been impacted by this, to apply, and initially you'll receive the minimum allocation, and then if you're qualified, you'll receive the minimum allocation, and then they'll review your documentation and make any adjustments. In addition, as everyone I think has heard, it's been in the media, the weekly benefit was increased by $600 a week for anyone on unemployment. And then they've also extended the unemployment insurance by 13 weeks. So it will go from 26 weeks, which was normal, to 39 weeks if people need it. And then when people apply, the benefits will be retroactive to the date of eligibility or to the date of when the program started, whichever is later. So that's a little bit on unemployment. And then the other information that we're sharing is about the Small Business Administration loans, those loan programs. So there's four programs related to COVID-19. The one that has gotten the most press is the Paycheck Protection Program. And applications with this next round of funding are being processed as of today. And then they will continue to be processed until the funds run dry. I think Jim mentioned that, you know, those could run out as soon as Wednesday or Friday of this week. That program you do have to access through a bank that is approved by the SBA. If you go to the SBA's website, they do have lists of banks that are SBA approved. Unfortunately, I don't find their site to be very user-friendly, but that is the place to go to find a bank that is near you that is approved by the SBA to administer those loans. If you need the funds and you haven't been able to apply so far, I would still recommend reaching out to a bank and identifying a lender that you would want to work with, and who you trust to work with in an ongoing way and begin to establish that relationship. I imagine that Congress is going to continue to put money into various programs as the needs are continuing over the longer term. So if you haven't gotten signed up for that, reach out to a bank and begin that process. The second program is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Sometimes it's called the EIDL, EIDL, the EIDL loan. And that loan has a $10,000 advance that can be tied sometimes to your payroll. Then there's the SBA Express Bridge Loan, which is a up to $25,000 loan, and that is intended to be a bridge loan for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And then finally, if any of the businesses do already have SBA loans, there is a moratorium on payments and interest for those existing loans. These programs are fairly complex to navigate, and so I'm glad to hear that the city of Kirkland is providing some technical assistance for these loans, because that is also in the slides that I had prepared. What I would strongly recommend is finding some of the organizations that provide free business coaching and counseling services to help you navigate which of the loan product might work best for your needs. The Paycheck Protection Program, for example, is really intended to keep that relationship between the employee and the employer. And so that program should primarily be used to pay employees, even if there isn't any work for the employees to do. So it's intended that the program is giving money to the employer to pay the employee so that the employee doesn't need to go onto unemployment. And I know that we've gotten feedback from some small business owners who would like to use the money for something else. But if the money is too much of the money is used for other things, then it loses the forgivable portion. So because of the complexity, I do recommend people reach out to one organization is Business Impact Northwest. They provide free counseling services and technical assistance, as well as they are a lender. I think they are currently they have more applications for funds than they have available, but they still provide free technical assistance, which can be really helpful in navigating these products. The other two organizations are the Small Business Development Centers that are run by the Small Business Administration, and an organization called SCORE. And SCORE is a nationwide business mentorship program that can help small business owners navigate this time by talking to mentors about how to plan and do some resiliency work in preparation for getting back online. Then there's a couple of resources through the Startup Washington, and I would recommend people check out that website if you are a small business owner to learn more about some of the resiliency assistance and some back to work planning. And then there's a few grant resources that are currently taking applications. One is Facebook small business grants, Salesforce Care Small Business Grants, and then an LISC grant. And these are grants, I think generally no more than $10,000, but the grant period is still open. So for the Facebook grants, the deadline to apply is May 6th. For the Salesforce Care Small Business Grant, the deadline to apply is May 4th. And then for the LISC grant, the deadline to apply is actually tomorrow, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So all of this information is included in the slides that I had sent. So Charlotte is welcome to send these out to you all. And I do just encourage you, if you are in need of those resources, they're very high demand, and the systems really were never intended to have to handle so much demand. So I know it can be very frustrating for people who are trying to access those resources, but I would just encourage you to be patient and start the process to get access to the resources that you need. And also reach out to the city of Kirkland and their line that provides technical assistance. That's great to have something local that you can reach out to and maybe actually get a voice on the phone rather than going through a long phone tree. So that's what I have prepared, and thank you again for the time, and I hope some of that information will be helpful to you.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm going to try Kendra again because we're running short of time. I want to rush along here a little bit, see if Kendra is back here with a better microphone situation or sound. Kendra, are you there?
I'm here. Is this better?
Yeah, go ahead. Keep going. We'll let you know.
All right. Okay, I'm going to leave my my video off. I think that'll help a little bit. So I'll just give a quick rundown of what we've been doing for Kirkland Nourishing Network. We quickly pivoted to, rather than doing food boxes for school breaks, doing grocery gift cards. We were planning to do grocery gift cards for spring break this year in light of the pandemic. And then when the schools were shut down early, we decided, well, let's go ahead and give out the cards early. And there was such an outpouring of support and donations for that in the community that we saw that we were going to be able to do this on an ongoing basis. And as of now, so we're a little over a month in, and we've just distributed our third round of grocery cards. We usually serve about 250 families in all of Kirkland. This last round of grocery cards just went out to over 550 families. We've had donations, so we've had donations coming in that have covered all three rounds of these cards, and we're continuing to get donations coming in, and we're planning three more rounds of cards between now and the end of the school year. We're partnering right now as somebody alluded to earlier. I'm sorry, I lost the thread, and I think Jim Lopez referred to that earlier. We're partnering with the Kirkland Parks and Community Foundation, since they're used to dealing with money and financial donations, and we're not. We're used to dealing with boxes of fruits and vegetables and oatmeal and peanut butter, and not cash and checks and credit cards. So they've been a great help in all of this. They're letting us reach donors and let them leverage workplace matching programs and matching funds and tax deductions and all that stuff. And it's much easier. I mean, obviously they can do it. They can donate without leaving their house, and we can donate, or we can hand off the gift cards to school counselors, who can then hand off to the families in need with less person-to-person interaction. So it's been working really well. We've gotten some great feedback, and yeah, we're excited. We're looking forward to getting back to giving food boxes again. But this has been a great solution for our current situation.
Okay, thank you, Kendra. I really appreciate you coming back here. I want to, before we open up for questions here, I really want to thank all my fellow members at the fire committee who made this session possible today. We have a great team. I think we've, in the last 10 years or so, we built a fantastic support network. And, it is exactly for times like this that, this network can help us. And I'm hoping that our strength will help us sail through the storm ahead of us, inshallah. Inshallah meaning God willing, it's the lingo. So here, I think to get us started the question, I had a question from one of the participants. By the way, we had about 43 participants here, and I think online here, let's see, we've got 6. So we've got a decent turnout. About 50 people showed up, including the panelists, so that's not bad. And I'm sure the words will go out and so forth. So I think Najmi had a question, and perhaps Shannon, it might be for you or somebody, or maybe Jim. Are there any funds available for nonprofits? Anybody? Where's Shannon? Shannon, Jim, do you know if there's any? You're muted, Jim. If you're speaking, you're muted. Or PPP, Karina is saying PPP is open to nonprofits, okay? All right.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
The question was, are these funds, federal funds, available for nonprofits? And I think there was an answer here. So, but if you want to elaborate on that, it'd be great.
Yes, and I would say for us to navigate the different programs and where you best fit, we're really hopeful for people to go to Startup 425, the website, and you fill in the contact form at the website, and folks will work with you one-on-one, giving you technical assistance to kind of navigate what programs fit best for you. It is Business Impacts Northwest. Shannon had mentioned that group. That is the group that we're contracting with in addition to city resources to do that work. So yes, and please call that number to find the program that works best for you.
Okay. There's a question here that says, what is it? Let me see here. What is the website we should go to for donations? What is the website we should go to for donations? Donations to make or donations to receive? I don't know. Probably to make.
I'm thinking that might be a question for Kendra to make donations to the Nourishing network.
Okay, thank you. Kendra, the question is there a website that people can go to? If I may, Kirkland Interfaith Network is a 501c nonprofit. You can make donations to Kirkland Interfaith Network as long as you let them know this is for KNN, and the funds will go to Kendra, KNN, basically. That's how I've handled it in the past. And Toby can elaborate on this. Toby, please, you're on. Unmute yourself. I've unmuted you, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I put it in the chat window, but people can also go to the KNN website, which is, strangely enough, kirklandnourishingnetwork.org. And there's a link to the specific page on the Kirkland Parks and Community Foundation page where the online donations can actually be made.
Yes, Nejmi, you have a question for Shannon, right? So go ahead. I'm trying to figure out how do I unmute here. It's kind of a weird situation. I'm not okay. Unmute. I'm going to unmute everybody to make it easy for me. Okay, just behave yourselves. Okay. All right, Nejmi, you have a question, and France will come to you next.
Yes, hi. Shannon, thank you so much for the presentation. I would like to ask about unemployment benefits. Some of our community members applied and some of them did not even get a reply for their COVID-19 PUA application. So what do you advise for those who did not get a reply?
Assuming that for those that they completed the application, I know that they are spending evenings and weekends reviewing the documentation that was submitted. And so it may just be taking time for them to get through the application material. So if they have completed the application, there's also two parts, from what I understand, I haven't actually watched the process myself, is that you apply for regular unemployment insurance, right? And then you apply for the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, and you've completed that step and you're still waiting, then I think they may be taking time to review the application materials. And if there's still questions, their website is being updated regularly, and I just saw today that they have some tips for how to get through on the phone lines, because their phone lines are being quite overwhelmed. But if someone is really unsure that their application was received, then I think at that point I would recommend trying to get through on the telephone. But the delay may be because they're spending time reviewing the application materials.
Okay. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Shannon. France, you had a question. You raised your hand. France?
Yeah, Shannon, when it comes to the small business loans, I was told that the amount of funding in the first place, if you didn't get it, there isn't a waiting list. You have to start all over again to get funding in the second bunch of money.
Shannon, you are unmuted from my end.
Okay, no, what I realized, I usually am in the habit of muting myself in Zoom, and then I realized this one I can't unmute myself once I do, so apologies. So the question, because the Paycheck Protection Program is administered by the banks, different banks have handled it differently. Some banks have kept applications on file to start processing once funds became available. Other banks may ask you to reapply. If you're for the economic injury disaster loan, that I actually been clear because that straight through the SBA, if they're going to require that people reapply. That application was updated at the end of March, became a very simple application that I've been told people were able to complete in less than 15 minutes. And that one you may need to reapply for.
Okay, thank you. We've got about a couple of minutes before some of the panelists have to leave because they have other commitments. So I know Pastor Michael has to leave at 6 o'clock. If there's any question for Pastor Mike before he takes off, please go ahead, ask him right now. Otherwise, we'll actually thank him and he can exit whenever he wants to.
Thank you all.
There's a question here, from Karen says, as I understand it, the PPP money is essentially gone or already accounted for those that previously applied.
Yeah, that's been unclear in terms of which banks are actually able to have funds available to start to grant or to process those loans again, which is why I would encourage people to begin on developing a relationship with a bank or contacting the technical assistance that the city of Kirkland provides. But I think if more funds do become available, you'll want to have have a relationship with a bank and know that you can work with that bank to process an application, because those funds will likely be used up very quickly again this week. And then we'll be looking to Congress to appropriate more money for that program. But it is clear that at this point, it would be good to get in the queue with a lender that you trust. So reach out to the 425, the Startup 425, I think that was the number, and get connected with those resources, and they should be able to help you navigate that system.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Question from Elizabeth: are the funds for nonprofits ones that could be used by Imagine Housing could use to offset loss of tenant rents? Many tenants cannot pay because they're out of work, and Imagine Housing is still demanding full rent payments. So it's a question about rent payments. Any assistance for rent payments? Who else? Jim, do you know anything about this? Jim Lopez?
Could you repeat that?
Are the funds for nonprofits ones could be used by Imagine Housing to offset loss of tenant rents? Because many tenants cannot pay because they're out of work. And Imagine Housing is still needing rent payments.
Yeah, I don't want to get into too much of the specifics, but for the PPP program, as one of our speakers said, a lot of it is about the forgivable part is about operations and keeping people employed. Then there's a percentage that they go through for things that don't do that, and if you go beyond that percentage, it becomes a loan. It's something that you pay back. So to go through the technical, what the percentage is and what the different things apply to, I don't want to opine on, but there is a ratio that you go through to find out how much would be forgivable, because that's really the question you're asking: how much is forgivable?
I think the issue is really more for the consumers. I mean, if I am a resident of a city, I have to pay rent, and I don't have income to pay rent, and what do I do?
My concern.
Go ahead, Elizabeth. Yeah, go ahead.
My concern is for the residents. We have been trying to negotiate with Imagine Housing. When this moratorium is over, they expect people to pay the full rent.
Right.
And it's not looking possible for many of the tenants. We could end up with a huge number of people becoming homeless.
Right. Yes, this is the moratoriums are not rental forgiveness. So this is an issue that's coming down the pipe, and it's the same issue. The city of Kirkland, the Kirkland City Council put a moratorium for small businesses as well, but that's just a moratorium, and folks are going to have to pay that rent. So it's the various federal programs that are available that you need to tap into to pay those bills.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just add to that, there's, these are huge policy issues that are being handled at the federal level, because, there's a whole cascade that happens when rent isn't paid, mortgages aren't paid, and kind of a cascade through the whole financial system. But I think looking at some of the, it is probably going back to nonprofit assistance to individuals who may be able to access some of that to try to pay those housing costs. But it's going to be kind of a long thing to work out at the federal level, and because of just the nature of mortgages, that is something that has to be handled at the federal level, and it's going to be harder to try to handle at the local level, besides having assistance through nonprofits to individuals to help them make rent.
And I think it's something like 25% can be paid for mortgage and interest rent from the business side of things. I understand the question is coming from the individual renting, but that's the PPP program for businesses.
And I think, if I can just, I know I'm a moderator, I can't opine, but I'm going to opine anyway, if you don't mind. I think, viruses have no borders, and I think neither should our compassion. So we need to encourage landlords that they need to be a little bit forgiving and let the rent go. I mean, that's the thing. And this is why faith leaders and all of us in the community need to actually spread the good word that this is everybody who's going to get a hit, landlords should also take a little bit of a hit and help people out if possible. Now, I want to be respectful of everybody's time, the panelists especially. You guys committed to 6 o'clock. It is past 6 o'clock. So if you need to leave, I will understand that. But I'm here to hang around, to chat with you as long as you want. And if the panelists are willing to stay, I'll stay, okay? Otherwise, I don't want to impose on them because I want to call upon them again. So I don't want them to feel that, hey, this is a commitment that they can't get out of in the future. Okay, so I want to thank everybody. Jim, Deborah, Shannon, Kendra. Welcome to stay. We'll continue talking. But if you need to leave, please feel free to excuse yourself.
Thank you, Joel.
I hope this was a valuable session. I think we can help people like Deborah in the public health about these rumors or myths and stuff. One question I have for you, Deborah, before you go: what about conspiracy theories? I mean, is it from China, or is it really some virus lab in America that said you let the virus through, right? Or is it Russians that are trying to kill us all? What's going on?
Yeah, I would just caution us against that. It's not really helpful. Once our officials are clear about, where the virus comes from and what information they believe we should have, I believe that they'll let us know. But the problem with conspiracy theories and misinformation is that 9 times out of 10, innocent people get wounded as a result of that, right? Because even in conspiracy, sometimes there's an innocent person behind that, and we just want to be mindful, right? We just want to be mindful and not do that. And I do want to correct, the information, the website that I was on is the World Health Organization, so please, again, take a look at the, King County, public health website. We can even see that, with President Trump trying to guess about, bleach and Lysol and Clorox and all of that, at least in New York, they reported an uptick in folks going to the hospital as a result of that. So, no deaths, no serious injury, but, people paid attention to that nonetheless. That's the danger in myths and conspiracy theories. That's the danger. So, please, we just really ask you to be careful, be mindful, and stay to the facts. And you can check your facts on the World Health Organization with Public Health and the CDC if you think that's helpful to you. Okay.
Can I make thank you very much for that. I'd like to make a request, a call to action, really, because we're building up a very, very important listserv that exists. David Walberick manages it. David's on the line, called the Inclusion Network. And these strategies are very important to us because we're working really hard to increase civic engagement for the city. And our ask is that we come together, and Jawad, I'll come back as often as you need me, to try to create this partnership of pushing critical information out to those folks in need. And the email list is where we send things out, like we're going to the community to do a focus group to get feedback on an item, or this is our top priority, this food hotline is a top priority, please send it to your distribution networks. These pieces of information will come through on this newsletter. So please, I'm not exactly sure the best next steps. Maybe if David's on, you can jump in about how we can engage. But the more people that sign up for this newsletter, the more connected we are to our community and the more confident we are that when we have a critical initiative that we need all voices at the table for, big decisions, we've got big decisions coming up on programs, budget, that this group, this listserv could be responsive to that.
David, go ahead. It's your time.
Hi, everyone. David Wolbrecht here with the City of Kirkland. So I just shared in the chat the URL for the Inclusion Network page. So yeah, just go there. A lot of info there, as well as sign up opportunity for that email list. Thank you. Thanks for everyone's work.
Thanks for coming, Dave. It's good to see you here.
Yeah, you too. Good to see you, Joel.
All right. Any other questions, guys? I'm here. Yes, sir. Gadir, brother Gadir, go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, everybody. Especially, I had a question at the beginning of actually from last night, but most of it, Pastor Anderson and Mr. Jim Lopez answered partially. But my question is, as the math of this going on, people are scared, people are psychologically get very damaged. My big question is that, is there, partially everybody says yes, they're working together, but is anything going on with the school system, and so they can build up the counselor for the schools when the kids starting coming out, let's say September or even before, they can get something together for those parents and the kids.
Anybody? Deborah, did you get that? Is it for you, or who was going to?
For anybody.
Hi, this is Deborah. I can tell you, here's what I do know. I know that this is new to all businesses, all public institutions, schools included. And what we do know is that our youth, as well as our adults, as well as our frontline folks, as well as our public health folks, are going to need support, right? And I know that we have a behavioral health task force as well as a youth task force, and I know that we have a school task force, and I know counselors. My husband works, does some consulting in schools. I know that there are schools that are thinking about how do we support our children going back. I know that for sure. I can't tell you what the plan is because I don't know, but I know that they are thinking about it. Even in how we didn't rush to have everyone, stay at home immediately, some of that was because we know that our kids, for some youth, school is the only place where they get a meal, right? And so we're not unaware, and I know that this is on people's hearts. I know that there's conversation about it. I just don't know what the plan is, but I do know it's on people's hearts. And I know we're thinking about our kids and our young people, and even beyond that, the stress that has caused parents with, having to pay mortgage and having to file for unemployment. How has that landed on our young people? We're thinking about that.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
Jawad, thank you so much.
Good to
Thank
see
you,
you.
Jawad.
Good to see you, Jim. Before you go, Jim, I want you to say a closing prayer, okay, for us. Is it okay? Can I ask you?
You want me to say a closing prayer?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh God, known by many names, we thank you for your presence with us, especially during difficult times like this. We pray for a deep sense of purpose and peace and compassion for all those who are helping others. We pray for a sense of community and closeness with each other so that we know we're not alone. Thank you for times like this where we share information and we know that we can find things that we need to hear. I pray this in God's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Well, thank you all for coming. It's 15 minutes past 6. Like I said, I'm around here. I would like to actually close the meeting officially. We're going to have an informal conversation. Thank you all for coming today. And I really appreciate Deborah and Shannon for you making time for a very busy schedule fighting COVID. I know, really appreciate it. Jim, I know you're busy keeping our essential services going. Pastor Michael, of course, and everybody here. It was great to be together. I hope it was worthwhile, and looks like that we might have to do this again because this is going to be around for a while, and we will need each other even more so moving forward. Thank you all. God bless.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody.